Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to WWE Discussion. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss Monday Night Raw, August 7th edition. This episode brought the best of company, with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins opening the show at odds with each other, but they were convinced by Sami Zayn to work together to fight the Judgment Day. However, it was Shinsuke Nakamura who had the last laugh by attacking the Visionary to close the show. Gable enjoyed a hometown ovation while winning the biggest match of his career and earning his first Intercontinental Championship shot by defeating Ricochet, Matt Riddle, and Tommaso Ciampa. Becky Lynch tried to speak about missing SummerSlam while focusing on her rematch with Trish Stratus. But after an interruption from both Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, she had fun taunting future opponents at ringside with lemonade in hand. LA Knight and The Miz faced off in the ring on the mic, but they may have stolen the show all the same. It was a great showing of what the megastar can do. Monday was an action-packed night that highlighted the biggest present and future stories for the Red brand. And with that, we're going to get into the action, starting with
Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And, well, I'll be honest, I like this kind of matchup. Now, before we get too further along in the action, let me know what you think about the intro down below. Shout out to 11 Labs. They got some great AI software technology that allows you to create basically put in words in a box and then an AI will read it over. So shout out to them for that one. But let's get into the action here. Rollins versus Nakamura. Is this the World Heavyweight Championship match at Payback? So when you think about Nakamura and world title contention, he's not always in world title contention since he's moved to the main roster in 2017. Triple H once booked him as a top guy in NXT, but he hasn't looked anywhere near that level on Raw or SmackDown. That could change with his latest feud, the Artist versus, the Architect. The Architect, I guess we could go with that one. The Visionary, there we go. The Artist versus the Visionary is a recipe for success. The two have chemistry, and the matchup between these two is not something that's been done enough, or a lot, or to the point where you kind of just you might instinctively just kind of groan here in this matchup. It's unlikely, though, that Nakamura would be the one to dethrone Rollins, but the possibility of him doing so is certainly enticing. Few things are more interesting than giving a talented performer their first major title reign, and this angle could lead to a match at Payback, as I talked about. It's important, though, that WWE commits to this rather than moving on to a bigger story that was also teased on Monday, and that was Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, which I think would be the fourth matchup between these two. But let's be honest, now is not the time to go back to this. And when you think about Rhodes winning the world title, that title should be the Universal Championship, not the World Heavyweight Championship. But nonetheless, WWE has begun teasing the possibility of setting up Cody Rhodes as the next challenger to Seth Rollins, and it makes sense. He's the most credible wrestler on Raw, right next to the Visionary. However, you think about the feud that these two had in the past, which wasn't that long ago, and you think about revisiting the rivalry now, perhaps doing so could ruin the momentum of the American Nightmare. Rhodes is in a position coming off a big win against Brock Lesnar, where his next match really shouldn't be a loss, his next singles match, that is. But he's also clearly stated that his goal is not the World Heavyweight Championship story. That was not the story he started. That's not the story he talks about finishing. And if he were to win that world title, there's a chance that it might make said title look lesser in value to the Universal title. Now, granted, Rollins has lost every match against the Rhodes along the way, and yes, Rollins should get his win back, but at the right time. And currently, this is not the right time. Rhodes needs to continue growing and evolving as a performer, and I don't really see how he does that by going back to a feud with Seth Rollins. Once the American Nightmare has completed his story, with Roman Reigns, whether that's by defeating Roman Reigns, which is probably how that story ends, then you can look at Rhodes and Rollins renewing their rivalry, possibly setting the stage for the Visionary to get his win back. In the meantime, though, Rollins should focus on his feud with Nakamura, while Rhodes finds something else to do. And maybe that's continuing his conflict with the Judgment Day, a feud with Finn Balor, a feud with Damian Priest. Certainly a couple of great matchups in store if that's the case. And then Gable. He won a match to make him the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship, and hopefully this is a start of a push, and hopefully WWE is able to commit to this push. Now, having this match at Payback, Gunther versus Gable, is a great way to show that you're committed to this push. Is it entirely likely? Sure, but maybe this gets done in a random episode of Raw. But I'm hoping that WWE does indeed commit to this push and gets him that match at Payback. And this was a big win for Gable. In the past year, since Triple H has taken over creative, Gable has been a reliable role player on Raw, and I would say he's been one of the workhorses too. A comedy star and a vet, and also one of those vets in the ring, in the locker room. His matches with a variety of superstars produced some great sprints in which Gable would put over top names and rising stars alike. Gable's work in Alpha Academy, well, that's one of those rare comedy segments or comedy things in WWE that actually works. But recently he's been taking a backseat to Otis and Maxine Dupree. So the stage is certainly set for his work to be rewarded. Even if he cannot defeat Gunther, he can still steal the show and continue building himself up as a future title contender in WWE. The problem is that Gable is currently, the way he's kind of being presented, it's hard to take him entirely seriously. I think we all know how great he is in the ring, but I think we also, from the time, basically from now until the title match, let's start building him up, let's start picking up some wins, and let's really kind of present him as a true threat to Gunther. And there we go. And then Becky Lynch. So she got snubbed from the SummerSlam card, which is a shame, and WWE can spin it however they want, but the fact of the matter is that there is no excusing the fact that Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus should have made the SummerSlam card. And on this episode of Raw, well, she did not compete, but she still had quite the moment. Pushing Zoe Stark into a match with Shayna Baszler, and then proceeding to sit at ringside enjoying some homemade lemonade, which is kind of a callback to a tweet she put out on Twitter on Saturday, I do believe, talking about making lemonade. And she even mimicked Triple H with an impressive air spray during the bout, or I think that was afterwards, after the match. Wade Barrett also declared that her lemonade was decidedly not bitter. Clearly the intent was to play on the recent internet drama following, there was quite the storm on the internet, with Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus missing on the SummerSlam card, and this meta work, it works for Lynch. She knows how to keep the internet behind her generally. Her feud with Stratus will likely end in next week's Raw, and Shayna Baszler certainly teased going after her next, talking about settling an old score. No matter who her opponent is, the man has shown that she can make the most of it. What has always made Lynch unique is that she can sell anything. She can move with the trends of the business and find fresh angles that build new talent. And if WWE truly commits to her as an anti-establishment figure who pushes against a company that at times does not fully commit to its women's division, she can certainly lead the charge to a new high standard in that division, making her all the more popular. So in conclusion, this week's Raw did a good job of dealing with everything for SummerSlam, but it didn't quite feel like WWE was in a huge hurry to set up anything for Payback. The show isn't until September 2nd, so you certainly have some time, not a lot of time, seeing as you put it at the start of September, so you don't have a whole lot of time, but you do have some time. Overall, good promo segments from the show, especially between Knight and Miz. The Fatal 4-Way that started the action, great display of different wrestling styles. Also, it's great to see the New Day and Kofi Kingston back. Kingston looking happy and healthy after a long injury layoff. You can certainly see the joy on his and Wood's face during the backstage interview. All in all, decent episode of Raw that provided some interesting new storylines that will likely lead to premium live event matches in the near future. It certainly looked like he set up some things that could make a Payback card. Nothing's been confirmed, but the pieces are certainly there, and it could, and if the matchups that you teased happening in the future do happen at Payback, could be another solid premium live event. And with that, we'll go on and wrap up this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.